This video is brought to you by Skillshare.
There isn't anything in this coffee mug. Well, hello there, ladies and gentlefolk. It is a beautiful day today, and there is at least part of a new season of Bridgerton out, which if you know anything about me, you will know that this has once again set me down an entire historical clothing and costuming rabbit hole. What else is new? Listen, I am a simple woman. Today, I just want to draw princesses and pretty things. This is not always the case, but when it is, I have to simply follow where my artistic whims take me. So we're gonna start out this video directly with a whole tangent. This video is mostly inspired by the off-the-walls, left-field costuming of Bridgerton Season 3, which some people are like kind of dogging on because not historically accurate at all. We have gone just all the way into fairy tale fantasy land, but here's the thing. I absolutely love it. I mainly watch Bridgerton for the vibes, for the production design, for the costuming, so I'm a full supporter of them just saying, okay, yes, historical drama, we're gonna keep like some of this, but then also sprinkle in just a little bit of fairy tale fantasy. Whoops! I get that there's Jane Austen purists out there who love the Regency era, they love the silhouettes, they love the accessories, they love the bonnets. I am not one of those Jane Austen purists. I really like the way the costuming in Bridgerton has kind of built up the fantasy nature across the season. Like season 1 was for the most part a little bit more historically accurate to the Regency era. I mean, we didn't have bonnets or head coverings. The girls out just like in the middle of the day. We were not using historically accurate materials, but it was still like, yeah, we get it. Then in season 2, we amped it up a little bit. We had more rhinestones and sparkle, more embellishments. I really like what they did with the Sharma sisters' wardrobe. They really put more characterization into those outfits. Simone Ashley specifically looks so good in everything that they put her in. And now with season 3, it really seems like they're leaning all the way into it. And I think that fits this season because in terms of like romance, this does feel the most dreamlike, the most fairy tale. Like it feels very thematically right to go in that direction with this season. And Penelope and Colin's characters, they're just such little romantics. They're in their own little worlds. So I think it's very in character. And in any kind of fictional media, I'm always going to like appreciate the character choice more than anything else. I think that serves the story the most. Anyways, where was I? I do believe I was about to make a character design video. So this video is very much inspired by the fact that the internet listens in on every single thing that you do. No conversation is safe, and if you begin watching Bridgerton, your Pinterest is going to feed you nothing but Regency era glam, and I am not complaining. So normally whenever I do these Pinterest character design videos, I have my audience send in just random images from Pinterest, whatever they thought would be cool for me to try to design into a character. But with this video, I got very specific. I've gotten requests on the channel to do tea or tea set inspired character designs in the past, and I thought that was really fun, but whenever I was trying to think of things on my own, the head was a little empty, so instead I specifically asked my audience to send me pretty tea sets, teacups, things like that, and I am going to take some of those and specifically turn them into characters. I'm very much not making roles for myself in this video because I just want to have fun, okay? So I, like a fool, only put up this poll like this morning, so I don't have that many responses in, but by the time I do the art, I will have seen most of them, hopefully. What do we got here? Every time I do this, my Libra tendencies kick in. But we have this beautiful, always with the feminine urge to design a strawberry or strawberry shortcake related character, even though I've done that entirely too many times. I really love all of the darker aesthetic teacups people have sent in. Ooh, see, now that's beautiful. Oh, I love this. I also see some like this that are sort of more of a novelty kettle or something like that. That would be really fun to design and kind of like incorporate into a character. Oh my goodness, this is like a snail. Oh, that's so cute. Oh, that's gorgeous. More little snails. I wonder if any of these are going to be by Miss Wondersmith. Absolutely beautiful work. Some of my favorite. Oh, right after I'm saying that, this one I remember fondly. This is by Miss Wondersmith. Little pumpkins, it's so cute. See, the fun thing about a lot of these, like, stop, that's so cute. Bees. Oh no, not the bees. We know. Oh my goodness, the Garfield tea set. Ah yes, and now we're getting into it. The eyeballs. Can't have one of these videos without just getting into pure body horror by the end. I love how many of these look like pumpkins. Don't trigger my Halloween gene this early in the year. Come on, that's not going to end well for any of us. That's not a teacup, but I still appreciate the submission. Ooh, who are you? Oh. Oh, little bats. I told you, don't trigger my Halloween gene this early in the year. Oh no, it's gonna be October. What are you gonna do with all those hands? A lot of these are from different users, but I'm convinced that people are just sending me their entire Pinterest board. Whoa. What would she look like? Little blueberries? Okay, so like I said, a lot of the submissions are still coming in, so I'm gonna wait like a day or so to decide on the characters that I actually want to design for this video. But so far, it is scrumptious. I'm so excited. I'm gonna be designing pretty dresses in this video, and I know it, and whenever that happens, it's always a good week. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm gonna take a day to like peruse my submissions, and then I will get back to you with what I have decided. So while indecisive Kira is being indecisive, in my off time from making videos, I have been absolutely barreling through my most recent sketchbook, and I'm finally to the stage where I'm like polishing things up, and I kind of want to paint over some of the sketches that I have. So I am once again in an attempt to get over my gouache fear, trying to learn more about the medium through the Gouache Painting Basics Dive into Tools and Techniques learning path, which is available through this video's sponsor, Skillshare. The first couple of times I used gouache, I couldn't quite get my finger on how the layering worked and how much water I should mix in. I am so used to acrylics that I really wasn't opening myself up to how versatile gouache can be. So seeing someone work with it in real time across these lessons and build on the technique slowly has been really helpful for understanding the medium a lot more. But painting is just the tip of the iceberg, because Skillshare is the world's largest online learning community for creative folks, with thousands of classes led by industry pros across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and so much more. And this summer is a great time to relax and treat yourself by continuing to explore an existing passion or diving into a completely new one. Skillshare's learning paths are an excellent option if you're interested in doing the latter, because they're a curated list of classes on a specific topic meant to be taken in order, building on your knowledge and reinforcing each lesson in a range of experience levels from beginner to more advanced. They offer a huge range of topics, including painting, design, productivity, creative freelancing, marketing, specific tools like Procreate and Blender, and many more. So if you would like to check out Skillshare's huge range of classes or learning paths, you can do so for free, because the first 500 people to use my link will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. Thank you so much as always to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's see what tea sets I decided on.
So for the images I decided on, first up, I'm a little biased, but I decided to do this one that was submitted by my friend Ellie. I mean, it's a cute little teacup with butterflies on it. I simply could not resist. This next dark rose set was submitted by Kayla E. Ritchie. This iridescent blue and gold set was submitted by Taeshi_. And this last clear green and gold teapot was submitted by _Luzy.zzz. As usual, it's pretty likely that I mispronounced some of these names, so if I did, I am very sorry. So first up we have Ellie's butterfly teacup, and for this one I kind of wanted to lean full into like Bridgerton Regency glam. That's the headspace that I was in at the beginning of this video. So since the actual coloration and structure of the tea set itself is pretty simple, like it's mostly white with a lot of like little details on it, I wanted to keep the construction of the outfit pretty simple and instead focus more on those kinds of details and embellishments. So for the dress itself, I went for a kind of straightforward Empire waist Regency inspired gown. I tried to give it very poofy, voluminous butterfly inspired sleeves, kind of inspired by the butterfly handle on the mug. I gave the gown an overskirt on the bottom, also inspired by butterfly wings. This is something that I've seen recently in some of like the Bridgerton costuming. I'm not sure exactly how historically inspired it is, but I think that it's just super pretty, so I also wanted to do that here. And of course, since the green butterflies are such a big part of the teacup design, I also just straight up gave her a pair of green butterfly wings. For her hairstyle, I did little curly 90s side bangs. It's very trendy right now. I think I was actually wearing those in this video. And then I also gave her sort of double space buns, once again to try to bring the shape of a butterfly's wing into the outfit. Has the subtlety gone out the window, or has the subtlety gone out the window? Later on, you'll also see I added little ribbons to the hair and onto a couple other areas of the outfit to try to like allude to butterfly antenna. I also did this with the little bow slash sash around her waist, and I finally accessorized, of course, with some little forearm length opera gloves, because that's just an essential part of any Regency glam look. From here, the rest of this design was really fun because it was a lot of just laying in patterns and rendering, that sort of thing. I usually do pretty complicated like garment pieces, so getting to focus a little bit more on the actual patterns and coloration of the piece was really fun. So that little filigree border that's on the tea set, I brought that into the sleeves and basically any trim area of the gown. I did it on the trim around the bust, around the waist, on the little necklace, and of course on the very bottom hem of the gown. I wanted to have a slightly more detail intense area of this gown, so on the bust I brought in the designs of the actual butterflies themselves. Then I tried to carry the design of the lighter colored butterfly onto the little overskirt, and of course, for the actual green butterfly wings, I basically copied that design one-to-one, although I did take a couple of liberties by just adding a little bit of sparkle. I kind of went overboard with the little sparkles and details in this illustration, but I was just having so much fun working on this. Finally, I was going to try to add the characters holding their corresponding like teacup or tea set into these images, but I was just having a really bad hand week this week. I don't know, for some reason all of a sudden hand gestures and holding things was just simply not working, so that didn't end up happening, unfortunately. On that note, in these videos I also try to like think about characterization and that sort of thing most of the time, but I was feeling very head empty this week. I didn't really think up stories for these characters while I was creating them. I feel like these are really more akin to dress designs or fashion illustrations, which is also something that I greatly enjoy doing, and sometimes I do want to just like design a character head empty and like, you know, you can fill in the blanks later. So if you get any ideas while watching this and want to add to some of the lore that I didn't come up with in the comments down below, feel free to. I feel like this group of characters could very easily be turned into a magical girl team or something along those lines. Maybe, I don't know, they like drink a certain tea and get powers for a temporary amount of time. Maybe they are just a group of debutantes in a fantasy world that hang out together. I don't know, I didn't come up with it. I do love to peruse your ideas in the comments. That being said, I absolutely love how this character design came out. I just got into a little like rendering flow state and I had a lot of fun with this one. Next up, we have the Dark Rose tea set that was submitted by Kayla E. Ritchie. Once again, I kind of just had to pick a lane with pronouncing your name. I hope that's at least like close to being correct. This tea set immediately jumped out at me just because it's like a little bit darker. It feels a little witchy even because you have like dark colors and then rose themes, and then you have like little animals inside the teacups itself, and then an eyeball. Like, that is so cute. This is the kind of tea set that I would own in my home. I absolutely love the combination of black, gold, and burgundy. I need it, but instead I will simply make a character design out of it. So I really wanted to create a very dark femme look out of this. I really wanted it to look like a very detailed ball gown. So I kind of similarly went in the direction of kind of that Empire line Regency silhouette, but then I also, since I wanted to go more on like a traditional fairy tale ball gown direction, I did give it more of like a full skirt that you would achieve with a crinoline, which those of us who know what this combination looks like together, and I apologize for that. I think I did narrowly avoid a Regency formal court dress in this, but to go along with this, I did once again give the look some little romantic puff sleeves and a bit of an overskirt, and then I focused a lot on details and accessorization because this is another tea set that has a lot of little details that I can bring into the design of the dress itself. So for this, I focused a lot on simple black and white base colors with accents of gold, and then added a lot of little details with the animal designs and with the vines of roses as well. Since the animal designs only really show up once you get to the bottom of your cup of tea, I wanted to add them in a bit of a subtle way, and for this, I guess the best way that I came up with was putting them in little windows on the sleeves. I dabbled in the idea of putting them on the little overskirt as well, but then looking at it, I don't know, I was just like, there's just not enough focus to the amount of detail. It was getting a little bit overwhelming, so I ended up putting those on the little sleeves, and then I gave her a little fan accessory as well, because again, that's something that I kept seeing in Bridgerton a ton, so I put the little animal designs on that too. From there, the big focus of this dress design was the vines of roses, because roses are like my favorite flower. I put them on too many things, and I kind of went hog wild with them here as well, but my general idea was to have kind of a huge panel of vining rose applique underneath the overskirt. I imagine that if you were to like bring this into the 3D realm, it would be like hand embroidered massive applique. Something about that just makes my brain happy. And I wanted to make this design a little bit asymmetrical too, so I also added sort of embroidery vining applique over the bodice, and then also extended it to the shoulder and around the neck, kind of in place piece of a necklace or some kind of accessory there. I imagine that texturally that would also be some kind of like hand detailed, hand embroidered applique. And for even more accessorization, I also gave her some little lacy green gloves and also a headband with more floral vining motifs. I can't remember exactly where in the recording, but at some point I was really futzing about what to do for the design on the overskirt. Like I said, I almost put more white panels with the little animal designs in them, but I did in the end just end up adding more roses on top of that, which is like visually kind of a lot, but the rose design is the main design on the little teacups themselves, so I was like, you know what, why not? And I am a maximalist after all, so I like how it looks. I think that it's pretty, and if I were attending some kind of garden themed ball, this gown would definitely be an option for me. Yeah. Next up we have this kind of blue and gold iridescent tea set that was submitted by Taeshi_. Whenever I saw this and how shiny and gold it was, it made my magpie brain happy, so I knew I had to give it a shot. And since this is like a full set and it has kind of a more unique design than the other full set that I had done, there are a lot of silhouette options here, and now that I'm looking at it again, I feel like there's a couple of missed opportunities here that I think maybe could have added to the design and been a little bit cooler. But the direction I did end up going in was having a silhouette that's largely based on the little, I don't even know what it actually is, but the little container at the very back. I just saw it and I was like, that's a dress. That's a free character right there. So in terms of silhouette for this one, I guess as a consequence, I went in a bit more of a Victorian direction, but I say that in like air quotes and very, very loosely. It's mostly just that it has that more dramatic, like padded out waist silhouette and more like an off the shoulder look, but I basically took that like big curvy hip silhouette that I saw in the little container and I translated that directly to the character. It also fans out near the bottom, so I gave the skirt more of that like mermaid silhouette, and then it also has a bit of like a ruffled design on top, so I also gave it an off the shoulder little ruffle embellishment for the sleeve area. Alongside this, I also wanted something that felt a little bit more grand, a little bit more fairy tale adjacent, because whenever I look at this tea set, it kind of reminds me of Cinderella and her iconic kind of white blue dress. So to accessorize, I also gave her a bit of a cape that extends off the back of that shoulder ruffle. I also gave her some translucent sparkly upper length gloves and a lot of chunky jewelry that has that kind of gold filigree motif going on. I gave her a big old necklace, I gave her big old earrings, and also a headpiece as well. For this design, I was once again focusing a lot on the little details that are on the tea set, especially the gold filigree, because I just enjoy drawing that for whatever reason, but I also wanted to kind of try to capture the texture and the reflection that's going on in this tea set. The fact that there's like kind of purple and pink reflected onto the blue, it's just so pretty and appealing. I think it looks really cool, so I was kind of trying to capture that in the dress as well, which is a bit of a challenge to make it look like it has a similar texture without making it look completely rigid and like frankly without making it look like a pool floaty. There's definitely like a little bit of pool floaty energy, especially being exuded by this skirt, and I don't know, I'm not super proud of that. It could have looked a little bit better, but because I was focusing so much on trying to capture the texture and the gold and filigree and everything, there are a couple of elements in the reference photo that I do wish I had incorporated in. One of the little tea stirrers kind of looks like a key and it has a really interesting head on it, and for some reason whenever I was looking at the picture to get inspiration, I completely overlooked that, and in hindsight it could have made a really cool little scepter. One of the containers in the back also looks a bit like an eyedropper. Again, I don't know exactly what this would be used for, like in tea service, but it has a really interesting spiral shape to it. The cap of the bottle is also really cool looking, so I could have brought those shapes in a little bit more. I don't know, one of the interesting challenges to making these videos is trying to like take a photo and condense like the shapes, the colors, the information as much as possible, and then translate that into something new while also like trying to maintain as many of those original elements as possible. And in order to create a design that feels cohesive, sometimes you like omit things, sometimes you really focus on some elements and not so much on others. So it is always interesting to see like what I translate and what I focus on, even like between different viewings of the image. Like now that I'm looking at it, I'm kind of looking at other things now that I've completed the illustration. So it's just a super fun exercise from a design standpoint because it really teaches you to like observe an image and take key pieces of information that'll like work well together. I don't know. I hope you get what I'm saying with all of this. But I think that it's interesting that if I were to do this again with the same image, I think I would get a pretty different character design out of it. On that note, if you're an artist and you've never done this, like taken an image and made it into a character, and even like, I don't know, an environment, I've never tried doing that before, highly recommend it. It is a ton of fun. But getting back to the character design itself, on the topic of coloration, besides trying to like paint in the texture and some of the reflections, there's also a lot of white on the inside of the pieces for this design, so I did try to like add some white trim to a couple of the areas of the dress, like on the very bottom hem. Also a little bit of like a white blue trim line on the little ruffle that's around the neck and the shoulders. And then, like I said, most of the details and the embellishment are just trying to copy in some of that filigree design. I really focused on that on the bottom hem of the skirt and of the cape. I added filigree also at kind of like the sharp curve of the little mermaid part of the skirt, if that makes sense. And then of course focused a lot on that on the bodice in the hip area. I also added a relentless amount of sparkle again because I was having fun, and it just, I don't know, sparkles make everything better. Last up we have this green and gold clear teapot, which was submitted by _Lucy.zzz. Again, name pronunciation, I'm sorry. So this image was selected because I did really like it, but whenever I make these videos, usually what I do is I go into the submissions and I try to go through all of them, and then I'll screenshot like good contenders that I am likely to choose, and then out of those contenders I'll kind of go through all of them and figure out ones that I have some kind of like an idea for. If one of them sparks my inspiration, I'll do that one. But for this one in particular, I had a couple that I was choosing between, so I sent all of the pictures to a friend of mine and I was like, alright, you choose, and they ended up choosing this one, which was one of the ones that I actually didn't have as much of an idea for. So going into the final design was a bit of a challenge because I was like, oh no, I don't really have anything in my brain for this. But because of that, I think I did come up with something like interesting at the very least. So for the rest of the gowns, I think I did, for the most part, start out in a bit of a historical direction just because this video was a little bit inspired by Bridgerton, but for this one, I was a little head empty, like I said, so I did go to fairy tale Fantasyland, like almost immediately, to try to get some kind of idea. Before working on this, I did go into Pinterest and look at medieval or like Tudor-inspired gowns. I think I was in that headspace literally just because the handle on this teapot kind of reminds me of the headband area of a French hood. The amount that my character design is literally just that thing kind of looks like that thing, so I'm going to visually connect them, and a design is a little embarrassing. So even though this gown started out kind of in that medieval place, the thing that I kind of designed around was the fact that there's that diamond or lopsided square shape on the very center of the teapot, and it has a shamrock inside it, and I just thought that was a cool motif to kind of begin designing around, so I kind of took that and made it the bust area of the gown. I made that area connect to the neck and sort of made it like the general center of detail since it is kind of the focal point on the teapot. From there, since the teapot was clear, I kind of wanted to make the gown itself kind of light and flowy and kind of give the fabrics that I'm using a sense of transparency. I was also looking at some of the floral or leaf motifs on the teapot, and I was thinking about, I don't know, interesting hems that you could get from that. In hindsight, given some of the shapes that are on the teapot itself, I think a more interesting direction to go in would be more of that like fairy core, lots and lots of layers of fabric that have more of that like lettuce hem shape to it, just to make it more floral. Instead, I went for a lot of drapey fabric that are kind of draping from that focal point shamrock area. And since there's so many designs on the teapot, I just like added a ton of designs to this in the end. To bring in some of that medieval flair, I did give her like little puff sleeves that are kind of inspired by those leaf shapes, but they are kind of off the shoulder. Again, I was looking for ways to give this dress a sense of transparency, so I did add some cutouts into it, which in the sketch I think looked okay, and then as I like began coloring it, I think it made a little bit less sense. It happens. In terms of hair and accessories for this one, I gave her a little bit of like that medieval headpiece. I don't remember what it's called right now, but at first I was experimenting a little bit with the headpiece being the shape of like a teacup spout, and then in the end I decided that that looks very stupid, so I switched it back to more of that like cone shape. For the headband area of this, of course, I copied the design of the like teacup handle. And to bring in that transparency again, I gave it kind of like some flowing fabric coming off of the headpiece, and then also gave the whole dress a bit of a transparent capelet as well. Finally, a big part of the teapot design is also those kind of rose gold curly floral motifs. So I wanted to bring that into the design somehow. So I tried to incorporate some of those shapes with like little intertwined decorative ropes and knots. I was trying to get a little creative here and bring a design element that was originally 2D into more of a 3D space, because I thought, hey, that might be kind of cool. In practice, I like how it looks in some places, but I don't know, overall, this feels more like, hey, first draft design, there's an idea here, but the execution here might not be it quite yet. Also, whenever I shared this final design with the friend who selected the image, I was complaining about how the rendering and the little like rope ties turned out, and I described them as a soft pretzel that hadn't been like twisted into shape yet, and they're like, yeah, you're right. So I can't unsee that now. Anyways, in the end, I don't hate this design. I just think it turned out interesting. You know, it's one of those designs that leans full on into the fantasy spectrum of things and is maybe a little bit too much, which I think describes me as an artist nearly perfectly. With that, here are all the finished designs for ladies, and welcome to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this, even though, like I said, it didn't really contain lore this week. I usually like to come up with lore, but I've been feeling just a little creatively under the weather recently. As a peek behind the curtain, I've been kind of sleeping terribly for weeks now and having weird insomnia, which is something that I'm not at all used to. It's getting a little better, but it is kind of impacting my creative energy and obviously my ability to think. Hopefully my progress with this will be on the uptick and I'll be feeling a little bit more on top of my game next month, but that also has been the reason for my absolutely atrocious upload schedule. So if this last week of the month has been like, why are you uploading so much? That is why, because it has taken me like all month to get ideas and just think. Anyways, thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. If you did, I very much appreciate it, especially since this video probably feels a little bit different. I hope you enjoyed me ramble about Bridgerton costuming a little bit, and if you just tolerated it, thank you for that as well. As always, feel free to leave your lore and fanfictions and speculations about the characters down in the comments below. And as always, the biggest thank you for this video and for every single video that I make goes to my amazing patrons, and especially my executive producers. A big thank you goes to Lunira, I Help, Faith, Mossy Raven, I'm not saying that name on the internet, ABW Makes, Sarah, Crimson Moon 04, Awendu, Liana, Ermler Jean, Anubix, Breeza, Sony, Brian, Phoenix, Rose Draconi, Ira, Freedom and Gus Gus, Kat, Dodo, Zyle S, Agent.Sketchy, Thea Maia, Lovisa, Eloquent Silence, Megan Penland, Enozyne, India Gloom, Hypnos, Katie, Sweet Winter Garden, Gravity Drop, I Hang Out with Cats at Parties, and Bean the Bread.